So I've got a number here that honestly surprises almost every professional I talk to. 40. When you actually look at studies on knowledge worker productivity, they consistently find that anywhere from 25 to 40% of our working week is spent, well, just producing written communication. I mean, think about that for a second. Emails, reports, proposals, endless updates. That is literally 2 full working days out of every 5 just spent writing. And let's be real, for most of us, this writing doesn't exactly flow easily, right? It's staring at a blank screen, typing a sentence, deleting it, and just kind of crossing your fingers that it lands the right way, all while your coffee just sits there getting cold.
Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, I'm going to be stepping in as your expert coach to help you truly master Claude AI. We are going to transform you from a frustrated solo drafter into a highly strategic prompt engineer. This entire session is all about solving that writing problem, specifically how teaming up with Claude completely eliminates it, letting you crank out incredibly professional communications in under 5 minutes.
Okay, so here's our playbook for today's session. We're going to hit 5 key areas. First, the hidden cost. Then, the paradigm shift. Next up, the pro toolkit. After that, we'll run through a guided drill. And finally, number 5, the payoff. All right, let's dive right into part 1, the hidden cost, and exactly why writing feels so hard. Let's talk about the pain of the blank page. Why does staring at that blinking cursor feel so incredibly exhausting? Well, it's cognitively expensive, because your brain is actually trying to juggle 3 competing jobs all at once. You're trying to figure out what to say, how to structure it, and exactly how to phrase it. They're all fighting for the exact same mental bandwidth. But the Claude way, it totally separates those jobs. You just hand Claude the overall strategy, and it takes care of the heavy lifting, the structure, and the phrasing.
Moving on to section 2. This is where we make the paradigm shift into engineering prompts.
Now that we're focusing purely on strategy, we rely on what I call the bedrock rule, the 3-ingredient rule. If you want truly great output from Claude, you absolutely have to define these 3 things. Step 1 is the situation. What's happening, who's involved, what's actually at stake here. Step 2 is the audience, who's receiving this, and what kind of mindset are they in. And then step 3, and this is absolutely crucial, is the outcome. What does this document actually need to achieve? What must it make the reader think, feel, or do? A lot of beginners completely skip the outcome, but if you tell Claude the exact outcome you want, suddenly every single word it produces becomes purposeful and strategic.
All right, let's get into section 3. We're opening up the pro toolkit and looking at 3 major power phrases.
So let's unlock this new professional toolkit of yours. Our very first power phrase is, "My audience is." Now, this phrase right here is the single most direct way to activate audience-calibrated writing in Claude. If you give it a vague description, well, you're going to get vague writing back. But if you give it a highly specific, psychologically rich description of your audience, the output literally reads like it was written directly for that one person. Because honestly, it was. But to actually make that phrase work its magic, you can't just throw out a generic job title. You really need to define 4 specific dimensions. First up, role and seniority. This tells Claude the exact level of detail to use. Second is their emotional state. Are they skeptical right now? Enthusiastic? Maybe a little anxious? Third is your relationship to them. Is this a brand new contact or, a friendly colleague you've known for years? And fourth, what is their primary concern? Are they stressing over cost, risk, time, or quality?
The contrast you get when you do this is just staggering. If you just say, "Hey, my audience is a business executive," Claude gives you this generic corporate speak that fits absolutely nobody. But look at the strong version. "My audience is a chief financial officer who approved our project but has recently become skeptical. He responds to hard numbers way more than narrative, and his primary concern is ROI. Boom. Now you get incredibly targeted writing that actually addresses those exact anxieties and is built to move a skeptical CFO to take action.
So here's a huge takeaway. Never, ever settle for a first draft. We use our second power phrase to fix that. Give me 3 versions. You use this to build range. See, the first version Claude spits out is usually the most conventional, safe interpretation. The second one will usually shift the tone or the structure of it. And the third? That one often finds a completely fresh angle you probably hadn't even considered. By looking at all 3, you give yourself the power to recognize exactly what you want just by comparing them. Now, don't just ask for 3 random variations, actually specify the strategic angle for each one. So version 1 might be super direct and businesslike, leading right with the key ask.
Version 2 could be much more relationship-focused, opening with some nice acknowledgement. And version 3 could be urgency-driven, really highlighting what's at risk if they don't act. Now, instead of just a block of text, you actually have 3 genuinely different strategic options sitting right in front of you.
Which brings us to our final power phrase. Rewrite this, but make it. This is your ultimate surgical editing tool. Once you have a draft you mostly like, this phrase lets you transform it from just good to absolutely perfect by isolating and shifting one specific quality. Honestly, it's the difference between a simple tweak and a total brilliant reinvention of your message. But remember, telling Claude to just make it better is totally useless. Better is an outcome, but it doesn't give Claude a path to get there. You have to tell it exactly which specific quality to crank up. Do you want it shorter? Tell it exactly how much shorter. Do you want it sharper, more confident? And by the way, more confident usually means stripping out all those weak, hedging words and apologies. Maybe you want it more persuasive or warmer or just vastly more specific. Just tell Claude exactly which dial to turn.
All right, moving into section 4. This is the guided drill, where we tackle a real scenario. Let's actually put these tools to work on a real high-stakes scenario. Imagine a boutique consultancy pitching against a massive Big Four competitor. We start things off with this universal writing template. Think of this as your ultimate blueprint. It seamlessly weaves together your context, your audience, your desired outcome, and your request for those 3 distinct versions we talked about. This right here is your ticket to escaping the blank page forever. Now, let's watch this come to life when we plug in our exact ingredients. We tell Claude our unique advantage is that our senior partners work directly on the project. Our audience, a super cautious procurement committee desperately looking for a reason to justify going with a smaller provider. And our outcome is to make them feel, literally in the very first paragraph, that choosing us isn't a risk, but actually the smarter, much safer decision. By locking in these precise dimensions, Claude spins up 3 strategically brilliant proposal openings in a matter of seconds. Okay, so we quickly read through the 3 versions, pick our favorite, and then we hit it with our final power phrase to inject some real concrete details. We just say, rewrite this, but make it way more specific. Replace the general claims with concrete details about what direct senior involvement actually means for their day-to-day experience. Oh, and keep it under 80 words. This takes a solid draft and just tightens it up for maximum undeniable impact. Which brings us to our final section, number 5, the payoff. Hitting send with confidence. Think about what just happened. In literally under 4 minutes, you went from staring at a blank screen feeling completely frustrated to holding a perfectly targeted, highly professional proposal opening. Doing that the old way usually takes, 45 minutes? And honestly, it probably still wouldn't be quite that precise. So here's my challenge to you. The very next time you face a blank page today, pull up that universal template, define your 3 ingredients, and unleash those power phrases. Because once you experience the absolute rush of just hitting send on something you are totally proud of in minutes, you really have to ask yourself, why in the world would you ever write alone again?